Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the CEO Story. And we've got a cracker for you today. We've got James Creech, who is the co-founder and CEO of Paladin. James, welcome.
Thanks, Casey. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I was really interested in talking to you and learning about your background and your experience and all the various companies that you're involved in. You're an investor on many boards. You've grown Paladin very quickly. So can you kind of give us a high-level overview of your background in Paladin, and then we can jump in from there?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I started my career in ad tech, working with brands and media agencies to promote content, right? Using paid media to drive audience and awareness for them. And then worked at an influencer agency, Creator Network, helping social media influencers on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, grow their audiences and connect with advertisers. So had experiences really on both ends of the value chain. And when I was working with influencers, experienced just a number of problems firsthand, right? Back in the old days, we were doing things very manually to try and find the right influencers, manage those talent relationships, and run campaigns. And so from doing everything in Excel and email and PowerPoint, we figured, there's got to be an easier way to save us some time here. So started building some tools, just kind of experimenting and tinkering, and figured out some ways to automate those processes. And then one day kind of woke up and realized, well, hey, clearly we're not the only ones facing this challenge. Let's build a business around this. So I teamed up with two partners and we launched Paladin about 4.5 years ago. And that's exactly what we focus on, right? We build influencer marketing software to help agencies, media companies, creator networks save time and better manage their business. And that means, influencer discovery, campaign management, and real-time reporting across all the social platforms I mentioned and more, right? Obviously Twitch, TikTok, the social space continues to grow. And so we've been focused on building solutions to save people time and run better influencer programs.
Fantastic. I really love the whole concept. And for the people listening and watching, if you can solve a problem for yourself and be your own first customer, you don't often have to overthink a problem, because if you're having that issue, almost certainly other people are also having that issue. So there's a lot to be said about that. And I really like that angle that you guys used. At
100%.
What point did you realize that, hey, we actually created a product that the masses could actually use?
Sure. Well, I was connecting with friends and contacts in the industry. I would go to coffee meetings or, at events and conferences, and just everyone was trying to figure this out at the same time because the space was so new and quickly maturing. And so I'd ask people, I'd say, hey, how do you solve this problem? What are you doing today? And just got the same answers back. Hey, we're doing it very manually. It's a lot of just hours and time thrown at spreadsheets or whatever. Or I would hear, we're trying to build tools, or we're looking for a solution. What have you found? And that's when it hit us. Clearly if everyone is banging their head against the same wall, then there needs to be a tech solution for this. And influencer marketing was growing so quickly, it was obvious that it was changing digital marketing, that it was a global phenomenon, not just a single one-off event, that this was going to be a long-term trend with strong momentum. And we said, okay, well, if all this is happening, let's be the guys building the picks and shovels to empower this new industry, to empower this new creator class. And that's what we set out to do.
Fantastic. I love it. I love the kind of the innovation, the way you pivot, the way you can constantly move. And that is so much in line with the industry that you're in as well, because platforms and social media, it's just exploding, and it seems to be changing every few months, at least, I would say.
All the time. Yep. I mean, just this year, right? You think about the controversy around TikTok and what the future, holds for them. Pinterest has been doing a number of interesting things. It's a platform we're certainly keeping our eyes on as they grow more aggressively into video. Snapchat, rolled out more public-facing profiles and seems like it's actually leaning into the influencer space a bit more. Instagram launched Reels. I mean, it's constantly, there's new things happening.
Yeah, and that's always going to be the case, because as these platforms get bigger, they're just going to start fighting for eyeballs and bandwidth, right? So let's talk a little bit about the business side. So that's really interesting to know that you're in such a fast-changing industry, let's just call it.
Yeah, sure.
But when we're talking about people, and if they were to kind of use some of the same mindsets and philosophies to make similar decisions to you. What kind of ran through your mind initially when you were working on creating the solution for yourself, but then creating that into its own company? And obviously you've grown that into a global phenomenon very, very quickly.
Sure.
But if we just break it down back to kind of the early days, how did that look, and kind of how did you map that out into where it is today?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with, we built the business to solve a problem, right? It wasn't some sort of screwball, get rich quick scheme. Like, we knew there was a real challenge here. We knew that software could provide a 10x solution, right, over doing it manually or these other traditional pain points we had been experiencing. So really lasering in on that problem that we knew we could solve and we felt we were uniquely suited to solve was number one. But how do we go about it? The more material to your question is a great kind of thing to explore. And the first kind of challenging part of that was we essentially looked to make all of our former competitors our customers, right? So setting out in this new venture is like, clearly we had been working at an agency or a creator network that was at sometimes diametrically opposed or in a similar business model to those new agencies or other influencer businesses that we wanted to work with. So we had to think through, okay, how do we set up a business? What are the pain points, not just that we experience, but that everyone else in this industry is facing? And then how do we go about solving it, not just for the current potential addressable customer market, but what are the future types of customers that we want to attract, right? So we had to think about, well, who's not just our initial customer, but how do we serve esports teams in the future? How do we serve traditional media companies, broadcasters, studios? We saw a huge trend in digital publishers growing. And so we wanted to serve those types of customers, and we've launched new products around that. And most importantly, our latest venture, Measure Studio, which is a social analytics tool that benchmarks content performance. We knew we wanted to have solutions to serve all of these types of customers in the social space, for the digital age. And after that, it was just kind of a matter of really listening, right? Like understanding the needs. And that was, tapping our contacts, going out and talking to people and saying, what are you looking for in a solution? And then carefully engineering something that would solve those problems, not just sitting around and thinking, what do we want to build, but asking the market, asking customers, what are the things that you need in a solution, and making sure what we ended up building reflected that.
Really good point, because a lot of people fall in love too much with their own product, and they go down this rabbit hole of, oh, this is amazing, I love it, it's fantastic, but then nobody else feels the same way. So it's very, very hard to sell something like that and make that into a real business, as opposed to just a passion project. So I think there's some key takeaways for the listeners there, is to really understand what the market is looking for. If you can really fill that market demand, take your own preferences out of it to that degree, but listen to what the market is saying and what the market demands. And you'll find that your sales team does a very good job, because you've lined it up perfectly for them.
That's right. In fact, I often tell people, I do a lot of advisory work and coaching for early stage companies. And I tell them, sales exists to drive revenue, right? That's the lifeblood of the business. But beyond that, sales serves a very important function in that it's your primary contact point with customers and potential customers, right? They're the people out in market representing your brand, talking to people all day long, and they can be your best source of feedback, right? Why are you not winning deals today? Are you constantly, finding yourselves losing out on business with a particular type of customer because you have a feature gap, right? Or because, there's something wrong with your business model or your pricing or your marketing and your positioning, right? So sales often serves as that first line of feedback in terms of where should you be going? How can you improve the product to not just serve your existing customers who are going to always want new things, but serving that future potential customer as well?
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. So let's pivot a little bit further down the line. So you've established the platform, you've got a few customers now, and you're growing very quickly. So we know you've grown tremendously. Do you want to share some of those stats with the listeners?
Yeah, sure. So we have customers now in a little over 30 countries across 6 continents. And that's been an exciting part about building the business, right? Is we always recognize that this wasn't confined to just the US or just, Western Europe, that this was going to truly be something that impacted all forms of marketing advertising globally. And so we wanted to be be a thought leader, be someone who could bring influencer marketing to a global stage. And so we've done that. We have offices not just here in LA where I'm based, but also in Europe and in Asia. And we're fortunate to have customers in all of those different markets. That comes at great expense because we've had to do a lot of localization. We support 13 major world languages today for all of the influencer-facing elements of our platform. We support every currency. We have a global search database of influencers for every country, every language, every region. And so that's been important for us and exciting as an opportunity to support the future of influencer marketing at that scale.
So as the business grows in all these different directions simultaneously, may I add, there's a lot of different stresses on you and your leadership team to kind of keep everyone pulling in the same direction, messaging, and kind of the brand identity and culture. How are you overcoming that, and what steps are you putting in place to make sure that all the employees globally have a similar experience and culture in the office environment?
Sure. Yeah, and it's a especially profound question this year in the midst of coronavirus, right? Because we're all struggling with how do you advance the culture? How do you ensure strong communication? I tell people we feel very fortunate that we're in a business where we can all work from home. We can kind of move to this remote work environment pretty seamlessly, right? I mean, as an organization, we were able to make that transition, but it becomes even more important to maintain the culture, to maintain that communication. And there are a lot of great tools that we lean on to assist us, whether that's Zoom and Google Meet, in addition to Slack and all the other channels that we use for communication. But sometimes it's just a matter of like scheduling fun things to do with your team, right? We did a Jeopardy session with the group a couple months ago, where we just got everyone together and had a friendly competition and answered some fun trivia questions. And then it's working on projects together. We did a marketing hackathon this year with our LA team on the business side to kind of think through what should we be doing as a marketing organization. How can we all contribute to that, whether it's content, whether it's other promotional aspects. So we found some creative ways to engage people and give them some new challenges outside of their day-to-day work. And then the other part of it is just, kind of being there for each member of the team. And luckily we're still at a size where we can do that, or I at least, make an effort to do that. And that meant, in the early days of coronavirus, it was just calling people or scheduling quick one-on-one check-ins to say, hey, how are you doing? Certainly on the professional front, how's your work going? And do you have all the tools and things that you need from us as a leadership organization to make sure that you're set up for success? But also just kind of personally, how are you dealing with everything going on and, hanging in there? And so that's been an important part of it too. But, we work really closely with our leadership team to, make sure that the goals and direction of the business are very clear and that people know what their individual role does to support that. And then especially as we've onboarded new people, we've been lucky to make some key new hires on the, whether they're both engineers as well as new salespeople, new customer success and account management people, some of whom I've never met because I haven't had the chance to travel and meet them yet, or because they've been onboarded, during COVID and haven't been able to come into the office or whatever. But getting a chance to work with them closely from a distance and remotely onboard them and just make sure they understand what we're all about, the values and the culture that we embody, and making sure that they feel included and part of the team from day one.
Yeah, not all of that. It makes perfect sense, and it must be a lot tougher hiring right now, like you said, with it being virtual 100%, and you not being able to kind of meet the staff and shake their hands and kind of look them in the eye. There's always a lot to be said for that in-person meeting. How are you guys dealing with that, and has it affected business at all?
We've been, I'd say, pretty fortunate on the hiring front. So the folks that we have hired this year, they've both come through our network on the business side. So we hired, we hired 2 new sellers and 1 new customer success person just in the last, call it 6 months, and came to all of them through relationships that we had. And so with that, there's already kind of a sense of trust, and you can jump on a call or you can get to know them. But you have other people who can vouch for them. And so I always encourage, people who are looking to hire to tap your network. That's going to be the greatest source of referrals. And if you can find people, do a reference check, and don't just talk to the references that they give you, but, poke around on LinkedIn, see who you know in common, or ask around about someone if they've been in the industry for a while. and you'll get some really good, honest feedback. And so that's what we did with our key business hires. When it comes to hiring engineers, I leave that to the experts. I have two very technical co-founders, in addition to an incredible engineering team. And so, we leave most of those decisions to the boots on the ground. And if there's a way that we can get involved and answer questions for the applicant or tell them about more of the business and why we're excited and what we're building towards, always happy to do that. But really, when it comes to evaluating the strengths and the core technical capabilities of an engineering candidate, we lean really heavily on the experts that we put in place and the team leadership that we have on the engineering and product side of the business.
So there's a couple of things there that I want to pick out. One, the tap your network, referrals. Like, we grow our business 100% currently through referrals and word of mouth. So that's worked fantastically for us. So it's the same thing, just from a people perspective, right?
Yeah.
And then secondly, you touched on a really good point. You've got a really strong team in certain areas that you're not an expert in. Leave that to them. They know the language. They know what they need. And having any form of ego or trying to go in there as the big boss, it's not going to be productive, because they might not get the candidate that's going to be the best for that position. And if you don't know inside out, this is where you need to have a lot more trust in your team and your staff to bring in someone who is a good fit, both culturally and then also has the ability to perform at a high level too, right?
Yeah. And then you give them that confidence, right? You put that trust in them. And we have some, newer engineering team leaders who've recently risen to the challenge, right? They got promoted. There was an opportunity as we launch a new product for us to take someone and put them in that role. And, they'll ask us questions. They'll maybe be a bit nervous their first time out of the gate. And they'll say, what should we do about hiring someone new for my team? And we tell them, we'll post the job description and you can review the applicants and do the interviews, and it's your call. Like, we trust you, right? We put our faith in you and you got this. And so that really gives people the confidence when they know that you have the support of the leadership team behind them.
But the key thing is also, one, you're promoting from within. So it gives people something across the company to aspire to and say, hey, I want to stick around for the long run because I can see a future here and a career here, rather than just jumping every few years like we're seeing more and more common. And then also that you're building a future path, so that new person coming in can see, oh, well, my manager used to be what I was doing and then he got promoted. So there's actually a good chance that if I do a good job, that I can stick around and I can also get promoted. There's a lot to be said from promoting within and succession planning. Do you have any formal succession planning in place, or how do you kind of look at that as a whole?
Yeah, we do. So we make it very clear, especially on the engineering front, what the tracks are, right? And so with engineers, some are very passionate about doing the work and being an individual contributor. In fact, we recently hired a fellow who had been a team lead at his previous job and said, it wasn't really for me. I can do the management stuff and all the, kind of logistical elements of what goes into being a team lead. But he's like, I really just didn't like it. I prefer to be, a subject matter expert and a strong individual contributor who can write code and, ship great features. And that's what I want to focus on. We said, no problem. Like, we're happy to find a role here that fits, your interests and your abilities. And then we have, other people who certainly aspire to growing into a leadership role and coaching others and are just naturally a good fit for it. And so, we outline what are the steps. How do you go from a junior developer to a mid-level developer to a senior developer, and sometimes even an architect or a VP of engineering. And so it's very clear. We have a standard kind of performance review cycle. We have very clear outlines and expectations and a kind of a 360-degree feedback process of, how do we think they're doing, but more importantly, what do their direct reports or their leaders think that they're doing. And then on the business side, very similar. We invest heavily in professional development, whether that's, attending conferences and events or courses or finding other ways to enrich what you're doing and giving you exposure, not just to your current role, but to other roles that might hold interest for you, right? So whether it's giving you a new project to take the helm on, to get some additional experience, or work cross-functionally with other members of the team to see, hey, do I like product, or hey, do I like operations or sales? Can I kind of dip my toe in the water and see if that's maybe a career path that I want to grow into, or additional responsibilities that I want to take on? And that's been successful. And we also try to plan things internally for skill sharing, right? So have people work together and maybe lead an internal seminar about new strategies or tactics that they're working on, or things that they've learned or read about, right? Oh, hey, I just read this great book and I want to share the key insights with the team. So, we make time and space internally to share those types of best practices.
Yeah, that's really good, doing like lunch and learns and cross-functional things as well. That it makes a lot of sense. And then to have that clear roadmap, I think, is key, so that people know exactly where they stand. And, I got given some advice when I was very young, and it was, you're going to have three types of people in any business. One is the person that wants to come in and shoot all the way to the top. The other is the person that's going to happily stay there, similar to the engineer example that you gave, stay on the level, clock in, clock out, do a good job, and away they go. And the third is someone who comes in and leaves pretty quickly because they don't like it, they can't handle it, or whatever. And it's about finding a good balance of all three, because you're inevitably going to have all three in your business, but you don't want too many people at the bottom level. You don't want too many people aiming at the stars and then no one in the middle actually doing the work. So finding a nice level playing ground that makes sense for the stage at which your business is at, because as you go through a business life cycle, at the early stages of a startup, it's chaotic. And then as you start maturing and getting into like a longer history of things change again. So it's always changing, which, it's always solving the puzzle, right?
Yeah. And all of those different types of people need different things, right? The star performers who are going to go like that have the gas, have the fuel to get there. They just need you to empower them, remove the obstacles to their success, give them additional skills or coaching and helping them course correct on that path. The people who are going to stay in the middle, it's not to mean they can't advance their skills, sharpen the skill set. They might just want to go really deep in their technical capabilities, right? They want to master their craft, and so they need a different type of support and environment to coach them and help them kind of continually refine their skill set. So yeah, you do have to adjust and adapt to each type of person to give them the support and the tools they need to succeed.
Great. Awesome, James. So as we look to wrap up, I like to end with one question. So if you had to attribute your success between three factors, those factors being drive, skill, and luck, how would you apportion that out?
Oh boy, it's a fantastic question, and certainly all three are involved. So, when we started this business, there's no doubt there was a huge amount of luck involved, and just the right timing, the right people, the right industry. But we also felt that, hey, we were uniquely suited to tackle this problem, and so I don't know if skill is the right word, but certainly some element of experience and enthusiasm, expertise, kind of leaning into this space and building out the best in-class tools for influencer marketing possible. And then drive is paramount, right? That's like everything that a good startup founder and his team need is you need to have that ambition. You need to have that vision to think big and tackle the problem. And so for us, back when I was young and certainly hungry, we were working all the time, and that was good. But I tell founders, there's a difference in terms of what the business needs from you in the first 12 months versus what it might need from you 3-5 years in. And so, back in the day when I was working 14, 16-hour days, working Saturdays and Sundays, a lot of startup founders wear that as a badge of honor of like, look how much blood, sweat, and tears I'm putting into the business, and look how far we've come.
Over results, right?
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, well, maybe you need a little bit of that at the beginning, but eventually you need to find ways to work more intelligently, right? To think about, okay, where am I inserting myself to strategically add value? How am I, learning from what's working and quickly pivoting if things aren't going as planned? And then how do you find time to recharge, right? What are you doing to give back? Maybe there's other uses for your time to enrich the community that will also pay dividends in other ways. So, that's for me, like getting more involved in advising and coaching, being a mentor for students and for others who are earlier on in their careers. That's been a really valuable way that I've found kind of rounds out the other things that I do, but still helps me feel like, like I get to pursue the drive, but rounding it out in other areas. So you certainly need all three elements. I don't know what the exact breakdown is, but certainly there's a huge amount of luck. You need the drive and you need the skill to kind of to get there. And so don't discount it. It's definitely all three.
Got it. Okay, great. Thanks, James. We'll put the links below for your website and your business so people can get in touch with you if you'd like. Thank
Please.
you so much for your time.
Thanks, Casey. It's been a blast.